Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really close look inside the pharmaceutical industry. It's an industry that's, moving incredibly fast away from its traditional R&D focus and really sprinting toward what everyone's calling Pharma 4.0. We're talking integrated digital systems, AI driving drug discovery, totally modernized supply chains, the works. But, and this is the key thing our source material points to immediately, the single biggest potential failure point in this, multi-billion-dollar shift. It's the human capital crisis. All the digital ambition in the world, it's essentially just like a fancy PowerPoint deck if you don't have the right people. People with the skills and, crucially, the mindset to actually make it happen. So our mission today is to crack open the strategic playbook. We want to get into the exact steps, the real costs, and the measurable benefits companies need to aim for to build this future-ready workforce. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, the urgency is absolutely there. And the data, well, it's pretty alarming, actually. You hear that phrase, digital ambition without a skilled, engaged workforce stalls at the starting line. It's proving brutally true. I mean, look at the skill gap right now. Fewer than 1/3 of current pharma employees feel fully ready for AI-driven workflows.
Wow, less than a third.
Exactly. That's the internal picture.
Oh.
And then externally, you've got 47% of these companies saying they have critical skill gaps right now. Areas like data analytics, cybersecurity.
The essentials for digital work.
Absolutely essential. And this is happening while competition is just heating up, right? You've got these agile, venture-backed biotech startups poaching talent left and right. Plus, employees themselves, their expectations are changing. They want purpose. They want flexibility. So if you can't adapt your whole workforce strategy and fast, the digital transformation just grinds to a halt. It becomes the bottleneck.
It really sounds like a perfect storm, a massive talent squeeze. And it's clearly not just about hiring a few data scientists, is it?
No, not at all.
Our source material, it lays out this holistic, really integrated approach. It identifies 7 key areas, these interlocking transformation domains, that are essential if you want to actually achieve digital leadership.
And I think one of the most valuable things our sources give us here is an organizing principle for tackling these 7 areas. It's the people, process, and technology framework, the PPT lens.
PPT.
Yeah, and that's critical because it helps ensure companies don't just treat this like a one-off project. It forces them to see it as an ongoing shift in governance, systems, and even behavior.
Okay, so let's quickly list those 7 domains through that PPT lens. Under people, what do we have?
Right, so people covers, first, digital workforce planning and analytics. You need to know what you have and what you need. And second, building those upskilling, reskilling, and continuous learning ecosystems. It's about constantly developing your existing talent.
Okay, planning and learning. Then process.
Process includes things like the hybrid work infrastructure and really designing the employee experience around that flexibility. And crucially, culture, change management, and the leadership behaviors needed to drive it all. Can't forget diversity, equity, and inclusion as actual strategic innovation drivers, too. That fits here.
Culture and leadership, okay. And finally, technology.
Technology underpins a lot of it. So talent attraction, employer branding, global mobility, how you bring people in, and then the actual HR tech architecture itself, modern cloud HR systems, AI for recruitment, things like that.
Got it. 7 interconnected pieces.
Exactly. And when organizations actually manage to implement this whole integrated PPT approach, the payoff, it's immediate, and it's pretty immense according to the data. Companies that embed continuous learning and really use data-driven HR, they achieve up to 60% faster technology adoption.
60% faster. Think about what that means for, say, getting a new AI drug discovery platform up and running.
Precisely. And that speed, it translates directly into other benefits, like a 35% improvement in employee engagement scores. People feel invested in.
And the flip side, the cost of doing nothing, that's what really seems to push this investment, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you fail to modernize your HR approach, those critical, specialized digital roles, they can remain open for 180 days or even more.
Half a year.
Yeah.
You just can't sustain cutting-edge R&D with vacancies like that.
You really can't.
Okay, so let's dive into the foundations then. The sources really hammer home that you have to start with, a proper diagnosis. You need to know exactly what skills you're missing. So, challenge 1, the digital skills gap assessment.
Yeah, this is step 1, and it's critical. IDC projects that by 2027, that's not far away, almost 60% of pharma job openings will need advanced digital competencies.
60%.
Companies can't just guess where their current workforce stands. They need precision.
So what does the action plan look like? Is it just sending out a survey?
No, it's much more rigorous than that. It involves setting up proper governance first. then deploying validated assessment tools. The sources actually name specific examples like the FIP Global Competency Framework, these globally accepted models, and the goal is to assess 100% of the target workforce segment.
Okay, 100% assessment using validated tools.
Mhm.
And what does that analysis typically reveal? Are the gaps small or
Often they're painfully large. Reports frequently show pretty high average proficiency gaps. Think 40% gaps in critical areas like threat detection.
40%? In threat detection, wow.
Yeah, and 35% gaps in data encryption, maybe 30% in network security. These aren't just like minor technical issues, these are fundamental security risks, especially in a highly regulated industry dealing with incredibly sensitive proprietary data.
Okay, so the assessment itself, getting that platform licensed and implemented, what does that cost? Because just finding out you have a huge problem sounds expensive.
It is. The sources estimate that initial setup can cost up to $1.41 million. That includes licensing, implementation, the whole package.
Over $1 million just to confirm the skills gap.
Right. But, and this is key, the sources immediately connect that cost to the ROI. The expected return on that initial investment is a projected 25% reduction in time to competence for new digital hires.
Ah, okay. So you spend the money to diagnose, but then you get people up to speed faster, which saves money and reduces risk down the line.
Exactly. That speed gain is immediate value, immediate risk mitigation. And there are softer benefits too, which also help with risk, like structured 6-month digital learning programs driven by these assessments. They've been shown to raise soft skill confidence among early career scientists by about 9%, and that directly correlates with better retention.
Makes sense. Investing in people makes them want to stick around.
It shows you're serious about their development.
Okay, so you've spent potentially up to $1.41 million figuring out exactly who knows what and what's missing. Logically, the next step is challenge 2, actually going out and winning the war for external talent, which sounds like spending even more money.
It definitely involves more investment, yes.
What are companies actually building to attract these, really scarce digital specialists away from tech firms or startups?
They're essentially building an entire strategic operation. A core piece the sources talk about is establishing a dedicated talent win room.
A talent win room, what's that?
Think of it as like a command center, a dedicated acquisition hub where your product leaders, your tech leads, and your talent scouts all coordinate their efforts in real time. And just as importantly, they have to develop a really compelling employee value proposition, the EVP.
Right, the EVP. What makes someone choose your big pharma company over, say, a flashy, well-funded biotech startup?
Exactly. And the sources are quite specific about what that EVP needs to emphasize. It's not just salary. It has to focus on, 1, the deep patient impact of the work, 2, involvement in genuinely transformative AI and digital projects, and 3, really clear cross-disciplinary career paths. Show them they won't just get stuck in one silo.
Patient impact, cool projects, career growth. Okay. And technology must play a role in the attraction part, too.
Oh, absolutely. Deploying AI-driven tools for sourcing and screening candidates is becoming standard. Faster, wider reach, plus building really robust partnerships with universities, sponsoring hackathons, getting into that early talent pipeline before the competition even knows they exist.
Makes sense. Get them early. So what are the target metrics for all this effort? Does it pay off?
The goals are ambitious, but they claim the metrics justify the spend. This whole strategy aims for something like a 40% reduction in time to hire for those critical digital roles.
40% faster hiring. That's huge, given those 180-day vacancies we talked about.
Exactly. And also a 25% improvement in offer acceptance rates, getting more yeses. But yes, attracting this level of talent is definitely expensive. The total investment for just this talent attraction challenge, the sources put the range somewhere between $1.75 million and potentially up to $3.4 million.
Wow, $1.75 to $3.4 million just for talent attraction. That seems staggering. Does the source material talk about how companies justify that kind of outlay? There must be executive pushback.
Oh, absolutely. The pushback is real. But the justification comes back to that cost of vacancy. You show that having a critical role open for 180 days, paying a high salary level, plus the opportunity cost. That quickly surpasses the cost of a more aggressive strategic acquisition effort. It's framed as necessary risk mitigation, not just, HR spending.
Okay, that framing makes sense, mitigating the risk of falling behind. So you spend millions to assess your internal gaps, millions more to attract external talent, but now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Once you actually have this mix of existing and new talent, how do you manage them effectively? Especially with this big shift towards flexibility everyone expects now. We're moving from the people focus more into the process challenges, right?
Exactly right. That leads us straight into challenge 3, implementing the remote or hybrid work model. And in pharma, this gets complicated fast because of all the regulatory requirements. You can't just send everyone home with a laptop. Any remote process has to maintain GXP compliance.
Right. GXP, maybe we should quickly clarify that for listeners. GXP stands for good. Something practice.
Good X practice, where X can be manufacturing, GMP, clinical GCP, laboratory GLP, distribution, GDP. Basically, the whole suite of quality guidelines and regulations set by agencies like the FDA or EMA.
Okay, so the rules covering how drugs are made, tested, stored, everything. It's critical because pharma is regulated like almost no other industry. So remote work can't possibly compromise safety or data integrity.
Precisely. Which means the technology focus for remote work in pharma has to be absolutely watertight security. We're seeing companies deploy things like zero trust architecture, where nothing is trusted by default, and establishing really rigorous, validated virtual audit processes specifically designed for these GXP environments. Security and compliance can't slip just because someone's working from their kitchen table.
Makes sense. So what's the scale of this hybrid shift? Are we talking a small percentage?
No, the goals outlined in the sources are pretty ambitious. They talk about scaling to allow 70% of the eligible workforce to have a hybrid model option, often within a 6 to 12-month time frame.
70%. That's a major operational shift. Is that purely for employee satisfaction or are there hard numbers attached?
There are definitely hard financial benefits projected. The sources predict things like a potential 15% increase in productivity, mainly from reduced commute times, allowing more focused work, and significantly up to 25% cost savings on physical office space, utilities, facilities management.
Okay, 25% savings on real estate. That's serious capital that can then be redirected straight back into R&D or funding clinical trials, I imagine.
That's exactly the connection they make. It frees up resources. Okay, moving on to challenge 4, another really critical process area, cross-functional team building. This addresses that siloing issue because, if you hire all this amazing digital talent but then just stick them in the IT department or silo the data scientists away from the bench scientists.
And then the digital scale-up just crawls, right? Nothing actually gets integrated.
Yeah, exactly. It slows everything down. So the goal here is to hardwire agile cross-functional teaming into the way work gets done. The action plans get quite specific, setting quantitative targets. They talk about monitoring team performance against success metrics, aiming for something like a 40% reduction in project timelines purely through better collaboration.
40% faster projects just by getting the right people talking to each other effectively.
That's the goal. And the outcome of that deeper integrated cross-functional work, according to the sources, is perhaps one of the most compelling quality wins. They report seeing up to a 62% reduction in post-launch fixes or issues.
62% fewer fixes after launch.
Wow.
When you think about the cost and frankly, the patient risk associated with fixing problems in drug manufacturing or complex R&D platforms after they've gone live, a 62% reduction is staggering.
It's a massive improvement in quality assurance and risk management. Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered assessing skills, attracting talent, enabling hybrid work, and building cross-functional teams. That leaves the crucial element of culture and leadership. Challenge 5, leadership development for the digital age. You can have all the right people and processes, but if the leadership isn't bought in and actively championing this whole $22 million revolution probably stalls, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You need leaders who not only understand the digital shift, but can actively lead it, inspire change, and break down those old silos.
So what kind of leadership programs are we talking about? Is it just sending execs to a digital boot camp?
It's usually more comprehensive. The sources outline things like implementing dedicated executive coaching programs, but with a specific digital transformation focus. And something I also find really interesting, launching reverse mentoring initiatives.
Reverse mentoring, what's that exactly?
It's where you pair seasoned senior leaders directly with, often, much younger, early career employees who are digital natives. The idea is to effectively transfer those crucial technological skills, the digital-first mindsets, and just new ways of working upwards through the organization. It helps bridge the generational and digital divides.
That's fascinating, turning the traditional mentoring model on its head. Does this kind of deep leadership overhaul come cheap?
Unsurprisingly, no. This kind of comprehensive leadership development also carries a significant price tag. The sources suggest a typical 24-month program could cost anywhere between $1.4 million and $2.8 million.
Another multi-million-dollar investment.
Yes, but again, linked to clear outcomes. The expected return is aiming for something like a 40% improvement in measured digital leadership competency scores, and maybe a 35% increase in the success rates of those critical cross-functional projects we just talked about. Better leaders enable better team outcomes.
Right. It all connects. Better leadership drives the cross-functional success, which leads to faster projects and fewer mistakes.
Exactly, it's all interlinked. So if we try and connect all these pieces, synthesize the whole picture, the total program investment across all 7 of these domains, from the initial skills assessment all the way through to leadership development, it represents a truly monumental commitment for these companies. The sources basically add it all up. The low-end total investment estimate comes in around $11.1 million. But it scales up, potentially, to $22.01 million over a typical 2 to 3 year transformation period.
$11 to $22 million. That really puts the multi-million-dollar blueprint title into perspective. That's the non-negotiable price tag, it seems, for genuine Pharma 4.0 readiness in terms of your workforce.
That's what the analysis suggests, yes, the cost of transformation.
So what does this all mean at the end of the day? When companies actually make this full holistic investment, what are the big company-wide benefits they see?
Well, beyond the specific metrics for each challenge, the sources point to broader strategic wins. Things like demonstrably lower deviation rates and critical quality audits, a huge deal for regulators. Enhanced employer brand positioning, making it easier to attract talent in the future, and critically, mitigating a known problem in pharma M&A, that historical 13.5% post-acquisition loss of key inventors and scientists that often erodes the value of biotech deals.
So retaining key R&D talent after an acquisition, that's a major strategic win that absolutely justifies spending millions on the people side of the equation.
Definitely. These are major wins impacting quality, reputation, and long-term innovation productivity.
Okay, it's a clear, costed roadmap with significant proven benefits. And yet,
There's still that massive elephant in the room. Despite this clear blueprint, despite the millions potentially being invested, surveys still show that 72% of life science CEOs cite talent and culture as the #1 break, the primary thing, holding back their digital scale-up efforts.
72%, even with the playbook, culture remains the biggest hurdle.
It seems so. The PPT framework gives you the budget lines, the tools, the process maps, but the sources strongly imply that successful execution ultimately hinges on those less tangible, non-monetary elements. The culture piece.
That 72% figure really underscored the ultimate challenge, doesn't it? Thank you for walking us through this incredibly detailed strategic blueprint. It really shows the sheer scale and complexity required for this kind of industry-wide transformation.
Absolutely. And it highlights that the PPT framework provides the necessary infrastructure, the what and the how much. But as the sources imply, the transformation really hinges not just on rolling out AI platforms or mapping skills, but on embedding new digital behaviors deep into the organization. That means changing things like established performance management systems, how people are measured and reviewed, and establishing reward systems that explicitly recognize and celebrate things like collaboration, digital adoption, and experimentation.
So it comes down to changing how people are incentivized day to day.
That seems to be the underlying message. Which leads to the final provocative thought for you, the listener. Considering that $11 million to $22 million investment required just for the structural changes, how do you actually measure the ROI on the culture shift itself? That intangible willingness of people from the C-suite to the lab bench to truly adopt new digital behaviors. The sources suggest that is the ultimate make or break factor. So when the success of a multi-year, multi-million-dollar program ultimately hinges on human behavior and cultural change, where should your executive focus really lie?